Greetings, all. Greetings. I don't think I'm going to go far this morning because that is approaching. Just find a comfortable place to relax or stand. $19.55. I don't know if you ever walked past a building and saw something like that before. If you ever do, just know that it belongs to a particular cult on the planet. Well, I didn't call it a cult. They are the ones who named it a cult. A belief that is so far out of that is so far, as we say, left field that the average person with a little bit of sense won't believe it. But then again, 1/3 of the earth does believe it. Well, 1/4 now. But the reality is, when I say believe, it means follow, it means practice. But 90% of the earth believe it. Nevertheless, subject that we want to deal with today is very different in one sense of the word. Have any of you heard the word disaster capitalism? Because today, we're in a place on the planet where it's practiced relentlessly. Look at that line across. You look out across the water and look at the heavens. It looks like we're looking at a flat surface with a curved surface meeting each other. Nevertheless, let's sit down. I began this with a question. How many have heard the term disaster capitalism, or disaster economics, I should say, because capitalism is disaster economics. It's not called that way. It's called capitalism. But capitalism is, well, they say it is supply and demand. Supply meeting the demand. But reality, it's just supply and demand. And you're profiting from the supply or lack thereof as compared to the demand. The demand is high, the supply is low, people profit. But today what you're seeing, especially in the West, and this begun a long time ago, not just begun, it began with the forming of the United States. Where the demand was deliberately suppressed. In some cases, and then they turn around and depress the supply. People will see when they says, well, unemployment is low, it's like 2%, 3%. Meaning that the supply of manpower is high. Everybody is getting a job. So you have very little manpower available. The cost to hire somebody goes up. But then, in the case of the United States, you have the Fed, who will raise the interest rate, making it difficult to borrow, right? Increasing the cost to borrow money, start businesses, to increase your production or build a business. And so there's no borrowing. People let go of their workers or don't hire. So now you got an oversupply of manpower. Demand is down. And then it goes in opposite direction. And that's what we are having today. China used to supply the world with all it needs at a price that most people can afford. Some people couldn't afford it, but most people could. And those who couldn't afford it would beg, borrow, or steal to get it. You couldn't imagine, first TV I saw, $1,000 for a TV. China come along, and today you can buy a TV bigger than that one. Bigger than that one now. Better picture quality. And you can do more with your TV. You can hook up your computer to it, and you can play karaoke on it. Everything you can do with your TV. And that TV costs $188. I even seen some for $150. But that's the situation that we're in. And a few years ago, what was happening is that there was technology on the market that's available, but the supply of it was being held back. in the form. If you look at it, if you go back and look at the history of automobiles, you'll see that 20 years ago, we were capable of building a car that can navigate from point A to point B with very little assistance from human. But it wasn't until the Chinese came along that you begin to see these things in numbers, high numbers on the market. Because the people who own the technology had decided they're going to suppress the technology, make as much money as possible out of the gasoline, diesel engines, and maybe 50, 100 years down the road, slowly release that technology. But when the Chinese started coming into market, they had to push back against the Chinese, and hence all the wars that we're having today. Trying to maintain the power that the West had over the rest of the world. Disasters were created all over the planet, including what they call climate change, which, as I have repeated many times, the earth goes through a cycle of winter and spring, summer, and fall. You think the universe doesn't go through that? That's the whole cycle of life. The whole cycle of life. That's one of the laws in the universe. That it works like that everywhere. The planets, other planets in our solar system, they go through that same cycle of winter, spring, summer, and fall. Everywhere in our universe. This life, period. And, all right. What we are seeing now is a change in the weather. And if you go back and read history, you will see that, why do you think the Sahara got like it the way it is? It used to be a lush, just like the Congo is today. That's the way the Sahara used to be. What they call the Sahel. All the way from Nanukshuk in the west to Ethiopia in the east. Desert didn't just born with the earth and stay there. But as you see, as if the earth warms up, as they're telling us, what's going to happen? You're going to see more water in the atmosphere. Good morning. Areas in the earth where you have a warm atmosphere that was dry before, it's going to be humid. That's the way it is. The earth is going to come back, just like you was looking at now. The Sahara is going to be like this. But they've been creating disaster after disaster after disaster and profiting from it. They're not waiting until something happened, a hurricane or earthquake, or bigger. If we create it, we can profit from it. that's one of the subjects you got to deal with. The next subject we got to deal with in this, well, I'm making a couple of videos. And one I saw, this Barbadian woman made a video about this same subject of disaster economics, and put out some information that one would, even with a semblance of knowledge, see a falsehood in it. But anyway, let's go part 2 of this one and move on from here. If you don't know about disaster economics, do some reading about it. One of the most famous Zionists, the executors of the disasters on the planet, following the Zionist model, or her Zionist teachers, the people who she's connected to, once said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. That was after she had Muammar Gaddafi murdered. With a big smile on her face, bragging about it. Another one, the same thing in Iraq. How do you justify millions of Iraqis dying? There's no problem. It was needed. Another Zionist, another woman. And both of them were famous now. Both of them had the same job in the US government. And I didn't name the names because I want you to go find it. Go find the information. Anyway, coming to part 2. Greetings, all greetings. Let me read something here real quick. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Should I read this again, or you completely you comprehend what I just said? In the course of human events throughout history, it shows that when one people are forced to dissolve the bands that, well, it has been shown that when you come to an impasse, you're forced to dissolve the connection between you and the people who you no longer can agree with the way they're doing things. and to assume among the powers of the earth. You listen to that carefully. Assume among the powers of the earth. When the U.S. decided to go its way, it didn't decide to go its way just because it wanted to be free from. It had a plan to take over the power of the earth. And people don't see this. How many of you have read this and never thought about it in this manner before? How many people in the U.S. today are reading this and seeing how America is being torn apart today? Those bonds being dissolved, not only between America and America, but between America and the rest of the world. That bond between Africa and America, between Africa and Europe, between America and Europe. Guess what's happening to it? We read so much. I keep hearing people talking about how they're the most educated, and who is the most educated in the world. The Nigerian, it's the Japanese, it's the Asian. Right here in front of you. America set out to be the leader of the world, to establish itself as a power in the world, not just be free of Britain. The founding fathers didn't leave England because, or the people who left England, they said, to come to America, didn't just come here. There was a plan before they even set foot on the ships in Holland or the place where they built the ships that they sailed to America in. There was a specific plan laid out for America before they. How did they know about America? Supposedly the European didn't have any knowledge about this land. No, they know about it. Man, when you read history, and I've talked about this before. I told you that they didn't set out with. That's what they set out to do. And as we go step by step, you're seeing it for yourself. But I brought up this particular part of the Constitution today, the Declaration of Independence. Their justification. And you'll see that there's a war being fought in America today. Some people want to dissolve those bonds. The average American don't see it. The world don't see it, really. Anyway, maybe, I don't know if I should be showing you this, but I want you to see it because you got to prepare for what's coming. All right. Peace.